What's going on, guys? Your Big Bad Wolf Benny Lupo.
And I'm Wildman Wess.
And we're here again on another downer moment.
Yeah, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we lost 3 professional wrestlers within one day. We lost, Nikolai Volkoff, we lost Brian Christopher Lawler, and we lost Brickhouse Brown. And we are here to sadly announce that we just found out the passing of Jim the Anvil Neidhart, 63 years old.
Now, you guys have heard us talk about this in Season 1 when I actually had a goatee going on.
Yeah.
I would sit there and I'd stroke and I'm like, hey, it's reminiscent of the Anvil himself. So, we felt obligated, since we've talked about it on our channel.
Yeah, and plus we didn't do a tribute to the earlier 3.
Yes. And every single one of them is, it's a life. It's a human being that died. They impacted somebody's life. They definitely, all of them impacted our lives. We're big wrestling fans.
Mm-hmm.
But, so yeah, we probably held off a little longer than we should. We didn't know the Anvil was going to die, but the Anvil died, and it was just like, that's it. We got to do it for these guys because, you know what, that's just too many wrestlers.
Too many too quickly.
It's too many wrestlers too quickly.
We were definitely given some form of precursor when they mentioned that he was battling Alzheimer's. But we didn't think it was going to happen this quickly. So, I'll go on to record talking about, let's just talk about a little bit what we knew about the prior 3 before Anvil, just so we can,
Let's start it off. Let's do it the right way. Let's talk about all 4, actually.
I'll go on record saying that with Brickhouse Brown, he was more in the 70s, early 80s before Benny and I were even born. So I really can't talk much about it, but still, it's just the concept of,
I knew who he was. So he had an impact, obviously, on the wrestling business. The fact that, he was big in the early 70s, maybe early 80s. So before my time, but I still know of him. So that's just how big of an impact he had.
Yeah.
So, I know of him. He's a great wrestler. Maybe not the great technical wrestler, but showman-wise.
More so mid-card.
Yes.
More so mid-card.
Showman-wise, he was good.
Mm-hmm. I will go on to, after that, we're going to talk about Nikolai Volkoff. Now, I was more aware of Nikolai Volkoff in the, I want to say, late 80s. I was probably about 4 or 5 years old at the time. It was right after he was getting done with his tag team with the Iron Sheik. He went on to be with Boris Yukov with the Bolsheviks during like WrestleMania 5, WrestleMania 6.
About that time period.
And, I remember still having the original LJN figure, like those big rubber figures that were only in one pose. And that was one of the first ones I had with with Iron Sheik and Corporal Krushner. So,
anyway, guys, I'm sure you know who Nikolai Volkoff is. He's your standard Russian villain in the 80s. Mm-hmm. He really is.
Near the end of the Cold War and everything.
Yes, near the end of the Cold War. He was that Russian bad guy that American fans love to hate. He got the perfect amount of heat. Basically, when people ask you, how do you become a good wrestler? You either are loved by the fans or you're hated by the fans. If you get some kind of reaction from the fans like that, either positive or negative, you're going to make it. He made it as a heel, a bad guy. And then later he did become a good guy.
He did.
He might not have had as much star power when he was a good guy, but the fact is, when he was a bad guy, he got the same treatment as, let's say, Hogan, Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
All of them, because he was just such a big bad
he was even part of that Rock and Wrestling connection with the music video of Goonies Are Good Enough for the Goonies with Cyndi Lauper.
He was a big deal. And he was a big guy. He was a national power lifter. He had, 64-inch chest?
Something like that.
Barrel chest. For instance, I have a big chest. I'm at only 56 inches. So this guy had a 62-inch chest. So, yeah.
Big boy.
Big guy.
Yep.
So,
for Nikolai Volkoff,
you can't forget him. I said, he's your stereotypical bad guy of the 80s just because he was a Russian.
Yeah. Even
though he was technically from Poland, but hey.
It is what it is.
We'll let it slide.
And then we're going to move on to the third of that original grouping, Brian Christopher Lawler. Most people know him as
Grandmaster Sexy
from Too Cool and also from Too Much with Scott Taylor. And for those of you that probably should know at this point, he was the son of Jerry the King Lawler. Now, this one really hit me hard because of
he was dealing with a lot of problems.
We're not going to get into too much about it, but at the same time, it's just...
If you guys want to know his problems, go look into it. We're not going to talk about... let's just say he had some demons. The demons won that fight, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate, but that's what happened.
And our thoughts and prayers will always go out to the Lawler family. I mean, from when I went to conventions, talking with Jerry, nobody really talked about Brian that much. I mean, in a sense, it's just the conversations I had with him at one point. He always said,
he's proud of his son.
He was proud of his son.
The way he was portrayed in the WWE, he wasn't proud of his son because that just went with the storyline. But it's your son.
Yeah.
He's a father. He's always going to be proud of his son.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? From the interviews I've seen, just him talking about his son, Brian Christopher, he was always proud of him. It's his son. How can you not be proud of your son? He followed in your footsteps. He had decent success.
Well, and not just that, but recently he was at a indie show and he went up against Ellsworth, and he actually wore his son's vest. And at the end of the match, they embraced, and that's very heartwarming.
So exactly.
Bittersweet, but very...
Maybe when they were alive, they didn't have the best personal relationship, but tragedy strikes, you realize
family
that's
loves family no matter what.
Exactly. So, yes, we miss all of them. And then let's talk about the big guy we just lost today, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Like I said, you've heard me reference him in the season 1 when I had my goatee growing out, when I'd sit there and stroke it. I'm like, that's the Anvil move, because he'd sit there and just stroke his goatee and laugh like, ha, 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 I'm going to beat you because I'm a big, strong guy. And he was.
He always said that he just wanted to hurt people. I mean, he was, that's like
he's
classic
just like
heel.
me.
He's classic heel. And I've been seeing pictures from today where it's very reminiscent of like The Walking Dead when certain characters are, killed off. There was a picture of the entire Hart Foundation from 1997 where you had Owen Hart, Brian Pillman, Bret Hart, Jim the Anvil, and Davey Boy Smith, and Bret Hart is the only one in color while everything else is in black and white.
Oh, we're dead, guys.
That hit me hard.
It hits.
They said 80% are gone, and it's just, we know that a lot of these, the 80s generation or the Hulkamania era wrestlers, they're in the twilight of their lives. We know that they're not going to live forever. It just still sucks when you hear about these situations.
Yeah. Let's put it this way, guys. I've wrestled. I've done the training. This guy's done a little training. It hurts. Yeah. It hurts, and we're young guys still. When you get to that age, and if they're still wrestling, some of them, God willing, like Ric Flair, who are still out there doing shows, it takes a toll on your body. The fact that they go out there, they're not doing it for themselves. They're already famous. They're already well known. They're doing it for us, the fans, because they want to give us that one more great match. So some of these guys who go out there and they pretty much give us their life, and we take it for granted. It's like, oh, they're wrestlers. They know how to fall. It still takes a toll on your body. Trust me.
That's why they say don't try this at home.
It hurts. Yeah, you know how to fall the right way. It still hurts. Yeah, maybe you're not taking as much damage as, say, average Joe who's trying to take that same hand. You're still taking damage to your body. So please, 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 like every show before WWE, they say, do not try this at home. Unless you are a trained professional, do not do it. You could kill yourself, you could paralyze yourself, and you can really hurt yourself. Any of the three is not good. So please, leave it to the professionals. Because listen, even they get hurt. You can't predict what's going to happen. So please, leave it to them.
Yeah, but apart from that, I know we're rattling on right now. You're probably like,
it's emotional.
We're beating the dead horse on that, but
emotional.
I will say, I always loved Anvil and Bret as the Hart Foundation in the mid to late 80s with Jimmy Hart as their kind of mouthpiece. Especially with their feud with the British Bulldogs. Before everybody became...
Everybody became family.
But before whole kayfabe and all that.
Well, you literally had Bret the Hitman Hart, who was all technical, and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, who was all muscle.
He was the powerhouse.
It's the powerhouse. That's me and the Wild Man. This is the technical guy. I'm the powerhouse.
I just don't have my sunshades on right now, but it's all right.
No, so they were around when wrestling was great. Like, if we can go back to the golden era of wrestling, it would be in the 80s. That's when wrestling was at its peak. Everybody watched it and everybody loved it. And the Hart Foundation was top of the line tag team.
And don't get us wrong. Wrestling is still. With WWE, I know that there's a lot of marks out there that are going to be talking a lot of crap. Hell, I myself do it all the time. But
have you guys checked out his What's your channel called when you do that?
Oh, Planet Powerbomb, yeah.
Powerbomb.
I haven't done it in a while, but the thing is, this wasn't necessarily Planet
No,
Powerbomb.
this is just more respect to the people that we've lost the last couple of years.
Oh,
last couple of days, let's be fair.
This last month.
But like we said, it's always tragic when somebody dies. It's even more tragic when it's a personal hero of ours because they touched our lives in a way that normal people just don't.
Exactly.
So they were bigger than life.
Yeah,
they were superhuman. And
it just sucks. But we're just going to close it out on that. We normally would give you the whole hope you enjoyed all this, but we just want you to take something from this.
This is just more of a respect thing. We had to share our respect for these wrestlers, these men. Because that's what they were. They were men who put their lives, their bodies on the line for us to entertain us.
Yeah.
So we want to give our respects to them, to their families, to the wrestling business, anybody who does this. Be safe. Try not to hurt somebody, especially yourself, and keep entertaining us because we love it.
Exactly. And also that tomorrow's never promised. And just embrace everything that you ever had as a kid and now. Until then, I'm Wild Man Wess.
I'm the Big Bad Wolf Benny.
And hopefully we'll see you next time
on a more positive note.
Until then, to all of our fallen brothers, we love you.